Hello and welcome to episode 19 of the Plot Twist podcast. My name is Catherine. I am coming to you from Berlin, Germany, which is where I grew up and where I now live with my husband and our 3 kids. This is a podcast about slow fashion and mostly knitting. And you can find me on the internet as Katharina Knits on Instagram, Frau Christ on Ravelry. We have a Ravelry group for the podcast, which I'm linking in the show notes below, just along with everything else I talk about. So my Instagram, my Ravelry, and my email address, which is hello@plottwistyarns.com. And everything else that I chat about, all the patterns, all the everything, my Ravelry pages will be down in the description box for you. So if you have any questions or want to read up on things or have a look at patterns, you can hopefully find everything there that you're looking for. I'm glad to be back before my 2 weeks are over. So I was very eager to come back today and chat to you because next week is when our summer holidays are starting. So in the sense that school is going to be off for 6.5 weeks. So I really wanted to catch up with you guys before that because I don't know about the summer holidays, about how I will manage and when I will manage to record. I will definitely record and put up episodes, but the question is when and how often, because all of the 3 kids will be home most of the time. So, and I'm going to go on many trips with them, to do fun stuff around Berlin. There's so many things you can do over the summer. Also, we have a little boat so we can go paddling. So that's all going to be fun. We're not going to go on a vacation, and there's a reason for that, but I'll catch you up on that later down the road. Not today, but some other time. But I am super happy to be back today and chat to you about all the things that are going on right now and that I've knit and crocheted, and all the other things that are going on in my mind, especially that are going on in our lives, that are just happening. Thankfully, our summer, from my perspective, thankfully our summer isn't too warm. On the contrary, so it's been rather cold, especially compared to last year, which was, if you ask me, a super hot summer. But this year, I'm like every year. So summer is not my season. And this year, especially after last super hot summer, I'm very grateful for those somewhat cooler days. For me, it's still summer weather enough, but it's not as hot. And there have been plenty rainy days, which isn't to say we don't also suffer a drought, but there has been some rain as opposed to last year. Or a drizzle, and so for me that has really helped coping with June, because my biggest fear is always that it gets too hot, because then I'll be unable to do anything at all. So we'll see how it goes, how July and August develop and what they turn into. But the very first few days when we've had like 29, 30, and then over 30 degrees, I think on the very first day I returned home and told my husband, okay, I'm ready for fall. I've experienced the heat. That's enough for me. This year, I'm ready for fall when it comes, because 30-degree weather is just not my thing. So yeah, I'm not wishing summer away quite yet, but this year it's not going to be too hard to say goodbye to the warm days if and when they come back. Well, I don't know if you were interested in that. Anyways, I'll start off with something more interesting than chatting about the weather, because I have a finished object to share with you guys, and it's turned out like I wanted it to. I think. Not that I had the chance to wear it, because it's not sweater weather. And yes, you may have guessed it. It's my tweed Raglan sweater. Look at it. It's finished. And I can tell you, I'll chat more about the yarn. It is butter soft. So if you've been thinking about knitting with this, oh my goodness, just give it a go if you can afford it. It's not, it doesn't come cheap. I think I paid 30 euros per skein. Yeah, that's what I paid. And I needed 4, not quite. If you need to know exactly, go check on my Ravelry page, but I want to say more than 3.5 skeins, but not 4. Anyway, I'm going to hold it up a bit closer so you can check it out. See how it's just so beautiful, those little these Tweedy bits that are really all over the place. I almost wanted to say speckles because it is so speckly. It's super Tweedy. So there you go. Isn't that just great? So I love it. And you can see how it's not quite a crew neck, but sort of almost. It isn't a cropped sweater. See, you can see, but it isn't super long for me. I'm pretty tall, and I would say it hits me around the hip someplace. So yeah, so that wouldn't make it a very long sweater or sort of sweatshirt because that was the style I was going for. But it isn't cropped by any means because I never feel comfortable in cropped, so I didn't want that. It's as short as I feel comfortable with it still being sort of a sweater that you recognize as a sweater that is not cropped. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. So I raised the back a little higher as indicated in the pattern that I used just for this section, just until I started increasing every round. So that was the Classic by Espace Tricot. This is also linked on my Ravelry page. And I used it, so I swatched. I used it to figure out how many stitches to cast on, how to do the back increases. I mean, you can wing it, but I didn't want to. And then place the increases, the Raglan increases where they told me. And then once I was done with the raised back, I didn't look at the pattern again. So the rest of the sweater has nothing to do with the pattern, or I don't know how the pattern turns out because I never read it that far. I just kept increasing until I felt it was long enough. Put it on those holders that I bought where you just pull this little plastic thread, put on your needle and then pull it through so that it holds your needles. I've also figured out by now how to really squeeze it on super hard so that it doesn't come flopping off the needle all the time, because that was quite a mess in the beginning, but now I'm more comfortable with that gadget, sort of. And then I knit to the lengths that I thought it was what I wanted, and then again went with the 1x1 rib, not twisted. I think this is 10 rounds, both on the what is this, collar and on the hem. And then I what did I use up here? So for the collar, I used an Italian cast on, also known as tubular cast on. And for the bind off, I did a Jenny surprisingly stretchy bind off. And then I knit the sweaters, decreasing every 8 rounds. Yeah, and that gave me that look. I was worried they were going to be sort of not tailored enough, but it turns out they're just right. And then for the cuff on the arm, I went with a 2x2 ribbing for, I don't know, 16 rounds or whatever, so that they're not super long, so that they come up until here maybe, so to my knuckles or a little bit more, but not onto the hand, because that wasn't quite the look or feel that I was going for. And then I wove in the ends, left a little tail hanging, soaked it, blocked it in the sense that I just laid it flat to dry and let it do its thing. I didn't pull it in shape or anything at all. I didn't try to lengthen it or anything. I just put it on the towel and came back 2 days later. So, and then I snipped off the ends because I always do this after the blocking or soaking, because sometimes they will otherwise, poke back out. And now I am just in awe of how soft this yarn is and how this really blooms when you wash it. So I am very happy. I am super happy about the sweater. And I can't wait for fall so that I can wear it, because it hasn't been that cold. I mean, the coldest it has been, or not cold, but the coolest it has been is so that I can wear this. And this is my Cristallo tee designed by Knitting for Breakfast, which I'm also linking down below. I have two versions of this. You've seen them both before, I think. So one is in the turquoise below, and one is with this gray color, and they both go with this color. This is DECLUTTERING Natura is the yarn brand, and the yarn is Penelope, and I think this is wool and silk and linen. No, I don't think there's linen in there. It's some sort of a summery blend, and it is gorgeous. It is the perfect yarn for this pattern. If you're thinking of knitting this pattern and you can get your mitts on this yarn, oh my goodness, you are going to be in heaven, okay? But also regardless of the pattern, I mean, the yarn is just delightful and it's beautiful to wear. Like everything by DECLUTTERING Natura that I've ever worn, you can wear it next to skin. It will never itch. It will never bother you despite being non-superwash. It is gorgeous. So, and this has been knit on, I want to say 3.5 for the ribbing and 4mm needles. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. The yarn is Tweedy by Hedgehog Fibres, and those little nips and all the Tweedy bits are leftovers from the mill, and then leftovers from Hedgehog Fibres yarns that people have sent in. And there's also recycled wool in there to some extent that I've now forgotten. But so that makes it a very well, sort of a cool yarn. So extra fun to work with, and I really love it. I love how it turned out. Okay, yeah, I can highly recommend that yarn, while it is also pricey. And I've talked before about how I thought about this yarn long and hard before I bought it for about a year, until I figured I really want to have this yarn. I'm going to get it. So yeah, make sure, if I buy something like that, or anything for that matter, but especially when it's also like an investment, I want to make sure that I have a project in mind and sort of, or like in that case, not a pattern, but like a vision that how I want the garment to turn out. And then I let it sit for a minute and see if I still feel like I want that in my wardrobe after a while. And then eventually I thought, okay, that's an investment that is going to happen. So yeah, I'm going to make it and enjoy it. Okay, so now I'm going to talk to you about through my knitting projects that are on my needles, and then through my crochet projects that are on my hooks. I don't know how you say that, but you know what I mean. So my first project is one that you may have seen if you've been around last fall. I got gifted yarn for my birthday in September last year that I immediately put to use, and that is this. I want to say, for me it's purple, others may think it's brown, color by Wollmeise Waschplatz, and then this, well, dusty pinky color, and I'm going to look at the tech in a second. I had cast it on and made quite good progress on a pair of socks, which I'm going to show you in a second. So this is the yarn. And hold on. This is the tag. I'm going to show you the Rochepet's tag, the Wollmeise. And now I can't find, oh yes, I can. Oops. The tag for the pinky one is, so that's Regia Schachenmeier Silk 4-ply. In the colorway 20, number 20. Man, how am I gonna do this? There you go. So that's what I'm working with. I cast on with a 2.25 millimeter needle, Chargu red lace, which are my favorites. And I knit a sock that looks like this. So there you go. This is a Hermione's Everyday pattern. See? I held the yarn double for that part of the heel so as to make it extra sturdy. Other than that, I just did a heel flap and gusset as per usual. So I had to pause for a second because there was a helicopter going over the house. Sorry for the noise coming in from outdoors. We don't live in a noisy part of town, but, well, noise does creep in. I'm sorry if this is bothering you in the background. I was saying that this is not super enjoyable to knit those two held together on the same size needle because I didn't go up. I think it does make the heel extra sturdy. I wasn't sure that this very thin yarn was going to be sturdy enough for the hard wear on the heel that the sock is going to get. Yeah, so I did that, and now I just reknit this section, or not reknit, but knit it on the other sock. And again, I thought, this isn't fun, you know, holding these double. But I thought, well, now I'm not going to change my mind for the next sock, and also it's going to make them more sturdy. So I'm going to get more out of those socks, so they're going to live longer. So this is the heel on the second sock. It looks hopefully exactly the same. And this is the entire thing. I had made it up until like maybe halfway through the heel flap, if at all, maybe a little less. When I got this out of hibernation, and I thought, why didn't I touch these socks again? And I think now that I took them out is because I wanted the needles, and I thought, oh, there's still no socks. Why didn't I ever finish those? I don't know. Why don't you? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that project. I was really excited about that project, but yet somehow, I don't know, it fell to the wayside. Well, it doesn't matter now. Anyways, I knit this portion and the heel. And let me put it that way. Had my kids not taken forever yesterday to go to fall asleep, I would definitely have made much more progress and might even have made it up all the way to the toe, so that today I would just have to knit this teeny tiny toe section and then it would have been a finished object, but no. That was not what they had in mind for that night. Especially my daughter, who tends to, as of late, just not go to sleep as easily. And that is so annoying. Oh man, it's so annoying because she was like the sure candidate that she would fall asleep in a matter of, well, 15 to 20 minutes and not in a matter of hours. So that was, well, I'm not going to even get started on this. So, yeah, that's one project. That's the one I pulled out of hibernation. I took it with me yesterday on the little train ride commute that I did, and also like the day before or something. So I'm really set on finishing this ASAP. Another little sock project is living in this fun drawstring bag. And oh no, I wanted to say I have one sock done, but no, I don't, and I remember why. So you may have seen sort of the older sister of this project, which is an adult sock, or pair of socks that I have finished. I've shown it last week. I'm going to link not last week, but the last episode below for you, or somewhere up here. I don't know. So that you can go and check it out. It is also pretty much dropped through the YouTube algorithm again, so there's a good chance you haven't seen it. So if you do want to, go back and watch it, and also learn how I mend my jeans, which is what I share on this, last week's or the last podcast, you can, click on the button or go down below in the description box and, find your way there. But anyway, so I had this started last week, and its sibling pair is finished, exact same yarns for the adult pair of socks, and this is going to be a kid sock. It's 56 stitches. It looks tiny now, but isn't as small. I cast on with 56 stitches, did a 2x2 rib, quite long, then went for 3x1 rib for the leg. I did my heel flap and gusset as per usual, and then I continued on until I thought it was time for the toe decreases. And I was at the doctor's office when I decided now would be a good time to put in the other color for the toes and start closing up the toe. But it's for a kid, so I cannot wing it as easily as with my socks, where I just see, or I can also try them on at the doctor's office. But it's for a kid about the size as my oldest son, so he's about to turn 8, and I remember now that I wanted him to try this on, because this is when they called me in. And I thought, perfect, so he can try it on and I can see whether I hit the right spot or should have added, I don't know, a centimeter or a half. I don't know. And that's why I didn't continue on with that. But that is also a project that I want to get off my needles. Whoops, what is happening here? I am using, again, 2.25 millimeter needles. Those were Knit Pro Zings. Also, really good needles for sock knitting or most projects these days for me. This is still what's left of this ball, so quite a lot. And that is, I always forget, Austermann, which is Shella. Okay. So a German sturdy sock yarn that will last you a long time. The colorway is 133. And then I'm using scraps for the contrasting colors, those two. This one, the lighter green, is Filcolana Avetta, so also like one of those sturdy sock yarns, and this one as well is Lang Jawohl. So those are, and I don't know the color names at all, the tags are lost, but those are just leftovers that I have, and I wanted to use up as much as I could. Okay, so that's sock project number 2. Now, yeah. Oh, goodness. This next project is, and the bag is full, okay? Lives in this fun bag. Legendary. This fun bag is a bag that my husband brought home from work. And don't ask me why they had this bag lying around there, homeless, and in want of, a parent. Well, he brought it home. He thought it might make a fun project bag, which I think it does. I like this thing going on here. I wish it didn't have the writing on it, but nobody cares, and also like not many people see it. It just brings us joy mostly. So okay, hold on. I have finally cast on what I've been talking about forever. Yeah, sure. I'm in mid-row. Okay, which is my second ever Mold Magic shawl. Yay! I've been meaning to cast it on for a long time, and of course this is a mess because all of the ends are everywhere. I'm going to try and hold it up the way it's supposed to be held up. I'm letting a whole lot of ends ends dangling in the spot where they're supposed to land, and I'm gonna braid them at the end as prescribed by Stephen West, the designer of the pattern. So I knit section number 1, yeah. And I mean, in the past I've discussed how I am not a fan of the eyelet section as the first panel because it will land sort of right on the chest when you put the shawl around in the end. But I didn't replace it with a brioche section because I didn't have the math brain to do it. I didn't want that headache. And I just thought, okay, whatever. I'm just going to do it as I'm told, and it's going to be fine. And I added in a third strand of yarn, which is mohair. And I'm going to have to hold it up a little closer so that you can see. And maybe you can see that halo. Yeah. Well, you can see this little halo right here, right? I hope you could see the fuzz and the halo. You can see it, right? It's there. Yeah. So that's the beginning of my Magic Marled sweater. And no, not sweater, shawl. I'm super happy I'm casting this on, or I have cast it on. And I've also made it into the second section. And now, of course, I am somewhere mid-row, which is unfortunate because it makes it much harder to show you. Hold on. I'm going to pull it up somewhat so that you can see better, hopefully. That's what it looks like. And the reason why there are these many little bits is because whenever I add in another color, because there's just no way that I'm weaving any ends on that project. Like that would be another project that would last me a week or two. I don't know. But I'm no thank you. I am, when I decide that it's time, and in this project you really do it whenever. So mid-row, at the end, it doesn't matter. When I decide to put in another color, and you always knit 2 together. So here you always have 2 colors on one needle. For maybe 12 stitches or something, I will put 3 stitches on the needles. I hope you can see that, how there are 3 here. So I will knit all. I hope you could see that. I will knit all 3 colors together. So the one that's staying, the one that I'm fading out, and the one that I'm fading in. I will be knitting those together for, I don't know, say 15 stitches. And then I'll cut the one that is going to go and leave just a tiny little bit, like 2 centimeters, right? Or like an inch, I don't know, just a tiny little bit. And then once, you know, sometime in the future, when I'm done with the entire shawl, there are going to be very few ends that still need to be woven in, just like at the beginning of the section and at the very end of the section. And there are several individual sections, but that's going to be an easy job. Then I'm going to give it a soak, lay it flat to dry, and then when it's dry, then I will snip off the ends. And I remember how long it took me to snip off all the ends on my first Stephen West shawl, the Malt Magic shawl, and that was just snipping off the ends after it was dried. So yeah, I'm not going to weave in anything if I don't absolutely have to. So this is a perfect method, and they stick, so they won't come. This won't come loose. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's what I've cast on. I really enjoy the colors, and what I really enjoy about this pattern is knowing this is sort of what the section is going to look like. And when I go for another section, I may want to go into blues, or I may want to grab moodier colors, or use some white, or I don't know. I mean, for this, I have selected a sort of a color palette, so it's a lot of pink and purple and blue, and these lighter ones are also very pinky, but there's also white in there. But I can also mix in some teal and turquoise and whatnot. So I'm not freestyling it as much as I did with my first shawl, where I just grabbed all scraps that I had, which was also really fun. So there's a little bit of a method there, but not too much. So I really go with, whatever color that I want. And now I know that this is sort of what this section is going to look like, which I absolutely love. And then the next section, I can go in a different direction. And that's what makes it so fun. And also it's fun to look at, so fun to work on. And it's color therapeutic galore. I mean, if you are a person that responds to working with colors as a form of play, and it calms you and it gives you a tremendous joy, this is such a project for you because of the individual sections. That would be a huge recommendation. If you really do get joy out of putting colors together, which is one of the greatest joys for me in knitting, really. So yeah, that's what I'm working on as of last week, I think. And boy, I love this project. I think this is my favorite shawl project for sure. One of my favorite projects, period, of all time. I mean, this is such an amazing pattern. Oh, it needs to go back in the bag. Yeah, huge recommendation. And also, I've been crocheting. I have crocheted in the past, and I showed them the last time, I think, on the last episode. I must have shown them 2 amigurumi ghosts for both of my sons. So my daughter got a different sort of crocheted stuffy, and I thought that now they each have one, but of course she demands a ghost now. So there is going to be another ghost in our family. But in the meantime, I'm crocheting 2 butterfly amigurumis. Do you say amigurumi or amigurumis as a plural? I never know. If you do know, please let me know down below in the comments. Anyway, so I'm crocheting butterfly amigurumis. That's what I'm going to go with now, for my goddaughter and her sister. So they're also like almost 8 and 2, like 2 of my kids. So yeah, this is the first one. So this is going to be the body, the head, the body. You have 2 of those panels. So here's the other. And you will, in the end, put them like, oh, this is a pattern by Spin and Yarn Crochet, Jillian of Spin and Yarn Crochet. I'm linking her page and my pattern page and also all that stuff down below for you, because her patterns are amazing. They're all free. And there is a huge selection on her website. You can download everything for free, and her style is that you put these crochet 2 panels that are identical, and then you crochet around them, and as you do so, you stuff them, and then you crochet them shut. And with the ghosts, that's all you need. 2 panels, you crochet around them and stuff them, and then you're good. And now with this one, you also need to attach the wings, which I don't know how that works, but the pattern is going to tell me. So this is the beginning. In the end, I'm going to embroider on the face. And I made 2 wings. Now I don't remember what's the top. I think that's the way it is. The cool thing is all the ends you're just gonna stuff inside. You don't need to weave anything in except for the tying off at the corner at the end. I weave that in for like 2 stitches so it doesn't come loose entirely. So that's one wing. There's another. Hold on. And I just went a little crazy with the colors. Like I just added in whatever I wanted. And so this main color row is what the pattern calls for right here. All the rest, you can do whatever you want. So I think I'm going to do the other sleeve a little bit different. Wing a little differently. So it isn't identical, the left and right wing. because she does that in the pattern too, and it looks very fun. And then once this butterfly is, I want to say off my needles, but off my hook and finished and stuffed and embroidered and ready to go, ready to be gifted, I'm going to crochet another one for the sister. Like, it doesn't matter which sister gets which butterfly. And I'm just slightly going to change the wing colors. I can also change the body color, so the main color, that one, the gray, if it turns out I don't have enough or I want another color, you know, to mix it up. I'm going to just, they're obviously not going to be identical so that they can be distinguished. I thought I was going to go for different wing colors, but now that I think about it, I could also change the main color. I don't know. I'll just see. And then she can give, you know, them to whichever girl she thinks the colors sort of match best. So I don't know. That's another project. I'm not in a rush. I'm not rushed to get those off my needles. In a rush. I'm not in a rush, but I work on these, you know, every once in a while. Also to not strain my shoulders too much, because this sort of fiddly crochet gives me cramps on my shoulders. So I do this whenever I feel like now I can do this for an hour. You know? And I'm surprised too by that, another crochet project, which is living in my drawstring bag that I got at Sistrene or whatever the hell this shop is called. I'm talking about this one. Hold on. I hope that you can see that. And so the story is the following. I saw a pattern online, and very soon after, I saw a girl in our kindergarten wearing a garment like the one that I saw online. And that's a little crochet cardigan, basically, that is crocheted out of 2 granny squares with 6 corners instead of the usual 4 that you get in the square. So that will have 6 corners, so that it gets pretty wonky. You couldn't lay it flat on a table or anything, but you can fold it together so that it makes a jacket, sort of Elizabeth Zimmerman style, but with crochet. And when you make 2 of those 6-cornered granny squares, you can sew them together in the back, and then sew them shut across the sleeve, and not quite all the way up here, but like to here, so that it flops open a bit. And then you have yourself a little cardigan. And I thought this was so neat and so cute, and I wanted to make this for my daughter, because I think there is something just incredibly happy about granny squares. To me, they're so life affirming and fun, and just express so much joy in life, period. You know, no questions asked. So joyful, so really life affirming, like I said. So I thought, especially for a kid, this was such a good project. And I'm really, truly, honestly thinking about also crocheting one of those for myself in just crazy colors, like with hot pink and neon yellow and all the blues and all the purples and just everything that I feel like using that I wouldn't usually use necessarily in a garment. I don't know. Or also like combining colors that I wouldn't otherwise combine. I'm like, this would also be a color that I would definitely use. And I really think I should do that. Why wouldn't I? It's nothing like anything I have in my wardrobe, and it might lift me up on days when I feel like, oh, the world's falling to pieces, you know? Why not have a jacket? An emergencies granny square cardigan to wear when you feel like everything is going to pieces in the world when you watch the news. And you put that on, and maybe it gives you a little bit of hope. Maybe I can do that. But I went over to my mother-in-law's, who lives in our building, this weekend. For some other reason, I don't know. And she had yarn scraps that she wanted to give to me, sock scraps. Okay, so I collected those. And then she said, and oh yeah, I was looking for fabric scraps for mending. And I went through her fabric stash. And then she said, well, do you want to go through my leftover yarns because there, new stuff has accumulated. You can grab whatever you want. I said, well, okay, sure. Twist my arm. I'm going to do that. And I went home, and I've been so good at destashing and letting go, which I'm going to talk about in a second. So, but I went home with new stuff that I found in her place. And, but I made it all good, somewhat, with, finding a project for at least some of the yarns of hers that I took home. I didn't take home too many, but I thought, okay, so if I'm now taking home just random colors that I enjoy, I don't want to accumulate random colors that I enjoy in different yarn bases and, just for the hell of it, because that is exactly what I don't want to do anymore and what doesn't bring me joy. And I was about to leave all of it at her place. And then I thought, no, okay, why don't I find a project that can use, if not all, many of those colors and yarns together. And immediately I thought of this little jacket, and I assembled a few colors and then pulled some out of my own stash and put them in there. And man, is that fun. I'm going to show you. How do I do that? Oh no, I can't do that. Just going to pull a loop and then that's good. I'm not, so the row isn't finished, the round, but it doesn't matter. So it looks like a little star. So this is what I made. You see what I mean by it's so fun and colorful and just life affirming. Isn't that just so fun, especially for a little girl? I mean, she's only 2 years old. You can put on her body whatever you want, and she can wear all the colors, and she will look fantastic in them. So while this lasts, when kids are young, that they look stunning in every color, you just have to take advantage, don't you? So that is what I came up with. And I just freestyled my way through my pile of yarns. Isn't that fun? And I'm at a point where I think it'll be good. I can squeeze another color or two in, but I think then I will have to start the second panel, I wanted to say, the second granny square, so that I see how long some of those yarn scraps last me. Because I thought I was going to make them identical, right? And yeah, I just think things that looks a little bit calming to the eye when the right and the left half of the cardigan are identical when they're this busy. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but I just thought it was going to make sense. And then what you do with that is you fold it like this. And then I'm going to have to manage my ends on the one side. So there you go. And then you have a half a jacket, right? So this is going to be a sleeve, and you sew it shut or crochet it shut up until about here. And then this is going to be your front panel where you can attach a button, and you have a buttonhole right there, right on the corner. And then here on the back, say this is the back, you will have the same identical panel, right, mirrored, and then you will attach them and just sew them shut along the middle, right? You can make this visible with a different sort of yarn, or if both of them, say, and with the red, you just sew them together, crochet them together, or what is that called? Mattress stitch, where you zigzag your way and then you pull shut. So that would be entirely invisible. And then you have yourself a jacket, right? It's not going to have as long of a sleeve. So if it's going to reach up until, like, if it's going to have the right length, it might not be long enough in the arm. I mean, with kids, it sort of depends because their proportions are different. But if I were to crochet that for myself, the sleeve would end somewhere around here, I assume, and it wouldn't go all the way down. But what you can do is you can after, I'm not going to do that, but if you wanted to make it a long sleeve, once you're determined like this is sorry, the granny square is big enough, and you crochet it shut or sew it shut on the top, you can always keep on crocheting in this direction, right? And nobody will see, you know, you'll just crochet in the round. It's going to be in the same direction, and you can make the sleeve longer. So that wouldn't be a problem at all. I'm not going to do that. I love the look of this and the somewhat, it's not a bell sleeve, or is it? I don't know, but these sleeves that are so long and open that just sort of flop and aren't tailored or like this by any means. So, and then when it doesn't end here, but a little bit higher up, I think that's a fun look. Anyway, so that is the, not quite, but almost half a jacket. So that would be a pretty newborn size still, but I'm going to have to add a little bit, like this much maybe. So it's not a long project by any means at all. I'm using, oh yeah, I always forget to say the needles that I'm using for the Marled Magic. It's a 4mm needle, and here I'm using a 3.5mm hook that is still inherited from my grandmother. Oh, yeah. This is a 2.5mm hook. It must be. You can hardly read it, but that is the butterfly hook. And this is the 3.5mm hook that I'm using. Can you read that? No, you can't, but that's the one that I'm using for the granny square. I've always been very happy with those just very basic hooks, but I'm not for this project. And I think I want to invest in one with a really like where that has some grip to it and that I can maneuver around more easily, because it will have some sort of something to hold on to and not just this metal stick. So it needs to have a little bit of grip. And I think, well, in about a week, not even a week and a half, yeah, and not this weekend, but the next, I'm going to go to the little marketplace wool weekend thing that my local yarn store is hosting in Berlin, and I think I'm going to grab a hook then, or two, a 3.5 and a 2.5, just to try out whether they work better for me and maybe give me less issues with my shoulders, because that could also be it. Crochet is also always very hard on my shoulders, which annoys me, and that could be the thing too, or you know, one of the factors. Yeah, it could be. It doesn't have to only be the motion; it can also be the tool. So I'm going to see about that. I'm going to grab a new hook, and then I can happily crochet on with my granny square project. Yeah, that is so fun. Oh, I enjoy it so much. I can quickly, like last times, I think I've done it twice now, talk you through the items that I've mended because I've again kept track. And then I'm going to talk about one project in particular. So since we last spoke, I've been mending one sock, 3 underpants for my boys, because sometimes they'll, well, it doesn't matter, but sometimes the elastic sort of comes loose at the top. Oh, it's an H&M sort of underpants, if you know those. Sometimes that's an issue there. That's how there are always underpants on my list. So 2 sets of pants that I'm going to talk about in a second, 2 dresses, 1 set of sheets that had holes in them, and luckily at the very top, and luckily they were too long anyway, so I could just sew across and then snip that off and then zigzag across, and then that was the end of that story. So, but I kept pushing that and pushing that and pushing that because I thought it was a much bigger project, when in the end it took me, I don't know, but not long at all. And it's so satisfying to finally have that done. So if you have something that's been lingering and you just need to do it already, you just really have to do it already, and then you're going to feel so good, and it's going to be a half an hour, I don't know, maybe even less, and you're going to be so relieved to, you know, finally have that off your back. And then there were 2 sets of pajama pants and 1 t-shirt. And that is all that I mended since we last spoke. And the pants that I mended were the same sort of thing that I did when I spoke to you last. So where I showed you the jeans that are mended in those patches that rub together, or in those places that rub together at the thighs, and I put patches on the inside and then sewed together with sewed them on with a sewing machine in very narrow stripes, sort of just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, so that this piece of fabric, not just the hole that may have already you know, come into being, but also the area around it that has worn thin and isn't as sturdy anymore, so that this area is reinforced, but invisibly so, because you put the patch on the inside, and not just to like iron it on, but just a regular piece of jeans fabric, and then you just go across it in, you know, with very little space in between the lines, that you just sew straight back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, so that this is really a sturdy affair, and you will not feel it. It will not be stiff. It will not scratch. It will be perfect, and you're going to wear those jeans forever. So there's an Instagram highlight saved in my stories, my highlights. I can link this for you. There is last week's episode, which I'm going to link someplace, and also link it down below. And I'm going to talk you through what I'm doing with the pants that I now have prepared for the sewing machine. And I just, again, need to sit down and do it already, because it's been 3-4 days that these have been sitting there prepared, like I'm going to show you. I just have to do it. I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to talk about it. So that's what it looks like pre-sewing machine, right? So there are 2 patches that I have just pinned on. See? One patch, the other patch. We don't have perfect lighting in here, so, but I think you can see. Okay, now I'm going to try and turn this inside out. So this is what it looks like from the outside. You see that one side hasn't worn through yet, while the other has. Just a little bit down there. Here. So it doesn't matter that the inside fabric is a darker shade than this outside fabric, because it's just that tiny hole, and you can always sew over it with your thread if that's the color of the outer fabric, so that you don't even really see this tiny little scrap underneath. And also, I mean, this is an area that isn't, you don't wear it on your chest, like nobody's going to see that, you know. And if they are, it's a mended pair of pants. Like it wouldn't bother me if you saw that these were mended, right? So on the one patch I'm sewing on to be careful so that it doesn't rip. The other one I'm sewing on because it has ripped. And the whole story behind these pants, see, that's Fibres in their, where is that? In their signature fabric, but the light version, not the very heavy version, but the lighter fabric. I have been meaning to get one of those pairs of pants for ever since I worked at an outdoor clothing store, where we sold those, and I thought those were so neat and so very functional, and very much outdoorsy, which I'm not a super outdoorsy person, as you may have guessed. In fact, many people laughed in my family and like amongst my friends when I said I was going to work at that place, and they said, "You are going to work at an outdoor clothing store? What? Well, how did that happen?" And But I did work there and I did a good job, and I learned a lot about like all of these fabrics and pieces and whatnot. And so I've always meant to get one of those. And but then I thought, okay, so I don't have a garden where I could use these. I don't work, I don't do anything where I need those pockets, and also I don't fancy them. I don't go skiing where you would wear these. I don't do anything that would recommend these sort of pants. So why would I wear them? Because I'm not going to wear them on a just everyday basis. But I found those. I literally found them on the street in Berlin. And that's what I keep saying and what I said last time. It is just amazing. It is unfathomable to me the amount of stuff that you can find on the street in Berlin. And it's not the first item that I'm showing here that I found. Last time I had mended a pair of pants that have since gone to Franzi, to my friend Franzi's daughter, after I mended them. I have found 3 wool sweaters that I've talked about. I can also link those episodes for you if you haven't watched them before. So it is just crazy the amount of stuff that you find here. And I thought, when I saw these, I thought, hold on, what is wrong? Why are those dumped? And nothing is wrong with them except for this teeny tiny hole, which is, well, presumably why someone threw this away, because they didn't know what to do with that. And I thought, well, that's an easy fix. Thank you so much for saving me over $100. And I, of course, took these pants home, adopted them. Now I'm going to turn them out inside out again so that I don't, you know, leave them as they are and forget that the pins are in. And now I'm going to do that, finish this pair, and then they're going to be ready for use, because I think I will in the future have use for them. Also, what I have to do, oh, I can show you. They fit. I can, on the legs, they are perfect. And they're a small size for men. So they fit a little differently than women's pants would fit. And they're perfect on the legs, but they are, I can close them and I can wear them, but I find them to be very tight along the, what is this called? Like around the belly. They're very tight. And I didn't want that. So I looked up ways to fix that, and it's not, not elastic at all. There is no give whatsoever. So I looked up how to do that, and you can, there are several things you can do, but what I'm going to go with is, so this is where the side seam is, right here. This is where the side seam is, just not on this band up here, but I'm going to cut it open like this deep, maybe, along the side seam, and where it would be on this upper band, that just where you put your belt if you wear one, which I don't have to with those. And then I'm going to buy sort of dark gray elastic, but not like a strip of elastic, but an entire long piece, and sew it in from the inside so as to create a little wedge that is, I don't know, maybe 1 centimeter or 1.5 centimeters wide, so that will create just a little bit of give. So that will make it much more enjoyable to wear. And again, nobody's going to see that. I don't care about the look. This is not, fashion, but it's a functional piece. And now it's a piece that I can wear, but that would be pretty uncomfortable to wear. I can turn it into something that fits me perfectly. Why wouldn't I do that? I don't care how it looks. Also, it's not a bad look. It's not that anyone will notice. I'm going to put that on both sides, so it's going to be absolutely fine. And what I could also have done is take this entire band off and sew on another one that is sort of different or slightly elongated, but I didn't want that entire hassle. I just thought I'd put a wedge in it and that's just going to be fine. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Just as well, an update on my pants journey that I'm on, apparently, because I've been mending pants over the last few weeks like a crazy person. But that feels good, and yeah, and it's the right thing to do because you can wear pants for so much longer than the fabric lasts you in those places where they just get the most friction, and it doesn't depend on, you know, the body shape or weight. It's like that with everyone, you know. So mend those spots and wear your pants, and you don't have to go shopping, and shopping for jeans or pants, oh my God, is as bad as shoe shopping for me. So those are the worst case scenarios, that I have to go shopping for pants or for shoes, because I really, really, really strongly dislike both of those. So if I can avoid those chores, those trips, I will absolutely do anything at all. And I know other women for whom that, or people, as like also men, for whom that holds true. So not everybody's a Carrie Bradshaw, you know. Really not. Right. My current obsession right now is decluttering. Again, something I've talked about on this channel before. I am currently watching everything that the Minimal Mom puts out on YouTube. I'm also going to link her channel for you. And I'm also rewatching some of her old videos, and also I haven't seen all of her videos, so sometimes I'm digging up older ones. There isn't anyone that motivates me as much as she does. She is a huge motivator for me. I think she's so fun, such a fun person, and very relaxed around the topic of minimalism and decluttering and living with less, and don't, you know, shopping too much, or knowing sort of the reasons why you accumulate clutter so you can avoid it in the future and so on. And she isn't dogmatic about that. And she is she's very fun, just naturally. I feel like I really think she's such a fun person, but also she has this approach. They have 4 children, so she has an approach where you do own things, you know, and there is a natural sort of ebb and flow. Things come and go, and you get stuff and you buy stuff, but also you let stuff go when it's no longer the season for it, or when the kids don't need it anymore, or I don't know what. So she is sort of models a version of what she calls minimalism, where you don't have to live according to super strict rules, and you're only allowed to own 1 spoon and 1 fork and 1 knife, but where you can have stuff, and just be careful that you own your stuff and your stuff doesn't own you. And where I think, oh yeah, okay, so that's how it can work with a family, you know. So I love her channel. I think she is super fun and incredibly helpful, and she motivates me so much. So I watch her videos a lot these days. And well, yeah, I have been decluttering everything. I mean, I go through huge decluttering phases anyways. Also, we're going to be moving sometime this year, so I want to start decluttering now, so that I really only take the things that we absolutely have to take or absolutely want to take. I do not want to pack 1 item that I don't need. I really don't. I want a minimal move if that's possible. So we're still going to have many things, but only things that we need and love and use. That's my goal. And no book that makes me feel guilty because I don't get around to reading it, which doesn't mean I'm not schlepping around unread books. I'm totally going to do that. I mean, I'm a literary studies person, so I do have books and also unread books, and I'm not going to change that. But I am very mindful of like what gives me a good vibe and what doesn't. Like things that are making me feel guilty, because deep down I know it's going to be 10 years before I'm going to make time to read that book. I'm letting those go, you know, or things that I was super interested when I got them, maybe even for free, but then now I've know they're not a priority for me right now, or I sort of lost interested in that topic or whatever. So I let them go, let them go. And I I mean, with my wardrobe, the thing is that I declutter it very frequently anyhow. So, and that would really be a tip if you're struggling with how can I declutter my wardrobe. So, number one would be only keep things that you really do wear on a regular basis. Not all of the pieces are your favorite pieces, but sometimes I need a long sleeve black shirt that I'm not emotionally attached to, but I just wear it as a layer during winter. So I'm definitely keeping that, you know. But other than that, I keep when they're not functional and I need them. I hope you don't hear the banging. I think you do. Oh man, I'm sorry. Um, but other than that, I only keep things that fit my body right now. Um, not the weight that I used to have, you know, or that I want to have. Not that I try to not think that way anymore because I don't think it makes any sense. You are who you are, and you look how you look, and that's good. You know, that's okay. That there is nothing wrong with that ever. Um, so why keep clothes that are two sizes too small or two sizes too big? Um, I only keep things that fit me now and that I want to wear. So that when every morning that I think about what will I wear, everything is an option and everything is something that I want to wear and that I look forward to wearing, you know? Um, and so my second tip would be to declutter after every season. Um, once we got out of winter, and really I knew that now I wouldn't need those long sleeve black shirts to wear underneath a woolen sweater because we weren't going to go back to 0 degrees. In spring, I looked at, you know, all the things that I'd worn over the, like say, all the shirts that I'd worn over the winter, and I looked through them to see if there was one that I hadn't worn at all, or that was really my emergency piece. Um, and if there is one such thing, I will declutter them. I will get rid of them. I have done this for a whole lot of, for many seasons now. So I always went through the things that were then about to go into hibernation, you know, until next winter or whatever season. Um, and the things that I hadn't worn, I asked myself, why have I not worn them? Okay, the fancy dress, because I wasn't invited anywhere fancy, but it can still stay, right? But in the case of t-shirts, like if you have a t-shirt that you haven't worn all summer, there's going to be a reason for it. And you don't, that doesn't mean you have to get rid of it, but chances are high that you can, you know, and it wouldn't make a difference. And you're probably not that attached to it either. Otherwise you would have worn it. So yeah, I, I tend to just go through everything and then I feel like, oh, I don't actually need that. So I'm going to get it a new home and just get rid of it. And so I do that with all of my stuff all of the time, basically. So that is really a habit that you develop over time. But those two things are what I really recommend. And now it was time to also not only tackle like my clothes and my books and whatnot, but also my yarn. And so there's going to be a second round of decluttering my yarn stash, which sounds not nice because to call your yarn clutter, but if you own yarn where you never really like the color, or you know you're not going to knit with that, or it's been sitting there for 5 years and you have no intention of using it, then it basically is clutter, right? It's no longer an inspiration to me. So to me, some of my yarns I realized had turned into clutter, and I thought, okay, so I don't want that, so they can go. And then I've well, let me say destashed a little bit, and I've donated something to our kindergarten, and I've just put together a bag of scraps because there are those scraps. I love scraps. I get super inspired by scrap yarn, but there are always scraps that I have to admit I've never really liked, or there were like a handful of 2 or 3 mini skeins that I really have never liked, and that I once got in an advent calendar that I purchased, and I've never really enjoyed at all the colors of them. So I now finally let go. And then I came across stash yarn from before COVID. It's not super deep stash, but I must have bought it in 2019, I want to say. And that is another tweed yarn. So I enjoy tweed, but I don't know what to do with these. So that's the brand. And that's the colorways. So one is quite vibrant and has these blue and green and very light pink specks to it. And one is, oh my goodness, so gorgeous. So like a plum color with purple, sort of berry toned and green, very, very light green specks. I mean, this is a keeper, but so I don't know what to do with that one. I have, I want to say 5 of those balls. So they are 50 grams each, 190 meters. So it is fingering weight, but I only have 250 grams. But I thought I could make this into a shirt or a vest, like you know, a vest, a slipover. Pulunda is how we would call it, but what is that? A vest, right? I could make that into a vest. But then I don't know when I will wear a bright red vest and over what. I don't know. I don't know if and when I would wear it. I'm not itching to cast on a shawl with that. Yeah, sure. I mean, I could make a kid's garment out of it with 250 grams for sure. But I don't know what I would knit for my kids now. It's also nothing that inspires me, and nothing that I would grant any sort of priority now. But it would again land in that bin that it's been living in for apparently, I don't know, 4 years, and not getting it up because I would forget. And I wouldn't think, you know, in 2 or 3 months when my needles have cleared, like, oh, I wanted to cast on a Tweedy kids garment that I have no clue what it's going to be. So I'm thinking I might destash those and just give them away to someone. Because what's the use in holding on if I don't know what to do with that? When I bought them, I thought, because those were leftovers, that was a pretty good deal that I got on them, I think. That's what I recall. And I thought you could always use them together, but I don't fancy that now. No, I don't. I wouldn't know what to do with them together. And I think I have 6 of the purple, or 5. So just enough for a sweater, question mark. I don't know, depends on the gauge, on the pattern, on the length, on the sleeves, on everything. But it could be an option, because this I definitely want to keep, but I don't know what to do with that. And my question is now, do you have an idea of a fun, I mean, it would also have to be a pattern that is good with tweed, like something like that with a lace panel. I don't know that I would love that out of tweed yarn. Well, I have my featherweight cardigan out of another and darker red tweed yarn, the Debbie Bliss Fine Donegal, a little darker. I love that color. I don't wear the cardigan very often because it keeps slipping off my shoulders, but I do like it per se. So that's another thing. Like, I have a dark red tweed garment. I don't think I'm going to use this for a garment when I'm really honest. And I don't know what to do with it if not a garment. And with this, I absolutely do want to keep it. Also, I want to try out this yarn, but I don't know what this wants to become yet. If you have recommendations, I would very much appreciate it if you left them down in the comment section for me. That's always super helpful, finding out what people knit with their tweed yarn. I mean, I haven't done a huge Ravelry search. I have now just gone through my stash. So this is obviously still coming, the Ravelry thing. But if you, in the meantime, have any idea or recommendation or even experience with this particular yarn brand, I would be super interested. So yeah. Okay, so those are the 2 items from my stash slash destash that I brought here to talk to you about. There are other things that I'm still mulling over, that I'm still not quite sure about. I don't want to let go too many things that I still have plans with. I want to allow myself the time. It's a slow craft, so why get rid of the yarns just because I haven't used them in 1 or 2 years? But I don't want to hold on to things that I know deep down I'm not going to use, because that is not a good feeling either. So it's, you know, it's hard to decide. It's hard to decide, but letting go does feel good too. And I did discover with decluttering that the minimal mom, and that's also why it's important to, or for me at least, to watch these videos several times and hear the same message again and again. She always says one of the rules is, obviously, and it's not new, if you haven't used something within the last year, you're good to let it go 95% of the time. You know, there are items where, sure. But like I said, if I haven't been invited to the wedding, I can still keep the dress because I'm going to wear that again at some point. But most of the time, you don't need and use the stuff in the future that you haven't used over the last year. So that goes for most of your clothes, most of your shoes, bags, and also like every other thing. Like, I looked at stuff that was sitting there on my desk and I thought, well, if I apply that rule, this and this and this and this other thing, they all can go. So I realized how this is such a radical rule. It's really radical to go through your house like that. It's pretty efficient as well, but it's also hard, even for me. And I have been a declutterer. It's a passionate declutterer for a long time now. So really for years and years, but it isn't that easy. But that's what I'm really very obsessed with these days. Decluttering our house and my stuff, and spotting and making out those items that have been sitting there for a year that I really don't need and that can go. And when that hits, when I can identify those items, it's very easy to let go. Also, if I don't get money in exchange for them, like very many things I just really give away, and I don't want anything for them except for the space that they have cleared. You know, if something is of great value, of course, then I'm going to sell them, but that's really the thing. Once you've identified the stuff that clutters up your house, the greatest gift is to be rid of it. You really want to just get rid of it and just have your space and your peace. So, and sometimes you need to get to just hear that. So if you need to hear that you have permission to let go of your things, not that I'm someone who needs to give you permission for anything, but sometimes you need to hear that from someone. It's okay to let go of your stuff. Even if things have been gifted to you, you don't need to hold on to gifts. You don't need to hold on to anything in your house. Okay, if you don't want to, let it go. If you don't want to keep it, let it go. If you don't want to hold on to it, let it go. You have full permission to free your house, your apartment, your room, your shelf, your drawer of all the things that are not essential or really, really, really hold a place in your heart, because it frees up so much space on the inside as well and around you. It gives you so much peace and calm. So do it. Yeah. and find something that you can mend in your life that will also give you so much joy and a feeling of accomplishment and of self-sufficiency and so on and so forth. So with that, let me sign off. It's been, another quite long episode. So it's been lovely catching up with you. And if you've stuck around till the end, you might as well like and subscribe below. You can visit the link to my Ko-fi page if you feel like it. And I'm very happy if I can chat to you again in, well, what I hope is the very near future, which will be during our summer break. So I'll try my best and come back, well, on a weekend when my husband's home and he can take the kids for a walk so I can film an episode, something like that. But I'm going to be back with fun projects and hopefully finished objects. And just a little general update about our summer so far. Okay, take care. Happy knitting and see you soon. Bye.